I didn't watch this movie when it came out, so I watched it for the first time just a week ago. It scared the hell out of me.
So I guess this is sort of like the first official Morgue Films podcast, I would say. Right? This is the first, one where we're getting together and we're just sitting down and we're talking film. And for, people who don't know, like the genesis of Morgue Films is really, we're not weirdos who like hanging out in morgues or anything like that. It's a combination of our last names with, my last name Moran, Steve's last name Guest, taking the first few letters of those names, smashing them together, and we got a company. It's just that easy. So
Piece of cake.
piece of cake for all the kids out there who want to know about starting a film company. That's how you do it. Done. You're now a production company.
Yep. You have a name? You're way ahead of the
game. So I guess got a little bit of a lag going there.
That's my bad.
It's all good. It's
technical issues.
It's technical issues. It's because we're not all on Starlink yet. But hopefully soon. Elon, hurry up, buddy. Let's get this going. But yeah, so I mean, if in sort of like, I guess, kind of talking about indie films in films that really have their roots in creativity, but their ultimate destination in success, I think the Blair Witch Project is like right up there at the top of the list for me personally. The idea of shooting something for $60,000 that would then go on and gross $250 million worldwide is essentially a filmmaker's dream. Like, I think, like, if we could all sort of find that recipe for success, we'd have a lot more people who are starting out as independents, feeling a little bit more confident in what they're doing.
Yeah, they were a master class of marketing, really. I can remember, because I didn't watch this movie when it came out, so I watched it for the first time just a week ago. So, but the marketing campaign, and I think in my experience, worked too well. Like, it scared the hell out of me, and I was like, yeah, I'm not going anywhere near that. No, thank you. And then you throw it in, but yeah, they had people going into that movie thinking it was real, which is that's a huge benefit, I would think, because it just raises the stakes big time for anyone watching. This is real, and then the whole style of the movie fits in with that. And I think they were handing out missing persons pamphlets at premieres and stuff like that, and no one knew anything about the actors. And yeah, it was a brilliant idea. The combination of their marketing plan with the style of the film, they knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, it was crazy. I thought it was real. I went to see it in the theaters when it came out that August 1999, and I was like, whoa, it blew my mind that that this was a real event and that they were showing it. And I think the thing that really helped for me sell it as real, it wasn't the little thing in the beginning where it's, three filmmakers went to the woods in 1994, disappeared, this is their found footage. It wasn't that. It was the whole thing that we never actually see the witch. I think if we would have seen it, the suspension of disbelief would have been gone.
Absolutely. I feel like they kind of use what people are just naturally scared of. When you grow up, you don't know why, but you're afraid of the dark. You don't really know why, but you are as a kid. And even other things, I don't know, could be a aggressive dog or something. When you're a little kid, you're full instinct to fear something, and then they kind of use that. But you're right, as soon as you see the monster, you're like, oh
yeah,
it's an actor.
Yep.
Okay.
No, that was a good special effect. Yeah, no, they didn't. And even the woods, I mean, man, setting it in the woods around fall where it has that spooky vibe. I mean, hey, just saying, 600,000 people in the United States alone each year go missing in the woods around national parks. So like there's something to be afraid about going out there all by yourself. And I think they really took advantage of that.
Hmm. Yeah, they were super smart. Yeah, really, really interesting. Yeah, you're kind of like just with the whole way it was set up, like these people are gone. You don't maybe you assume they're dead, but right from the beginning, they've kind of set the tone that there's going to be some tension, and because these people are they eventually they die. I don't know, captured or something. So it kind of builds like right from the beginning. You're just waiting, knowing these people. When is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? Something's going to happen to these people, but you just don't know where, when, why, how. So
Yeah.
brilliant, brilliant
It, it,
movie.
it's in the thing that I thought was really cool as well is that they set up a documentary, just like I think it was like 28 minutes, something like that, before the film was released, where they talked about they had people interview the extras who you've seen in the movie, plus other like researchers and stuff like this, talking about their disappearance. So like there was even a fake documentary about their disappearance to support this fake documentary about their disappearance, which is like so smart. And like I honestly I've seen this so many times since it came out, and really have sort of like delved into what I like about it, what I love about it. But you just watching it last week, like I'd love to hear your take. Like, did you find it scary in this sort of modern world where you've seen probably maybe even some knockoffs, maybe even like films like Paranormal Activity that were inspired by this? Like, what was your instinct? How did you react to that first viewing?
I thought it well originally. Like probably why I didn't see it the first time was one that I was scared and I didn't want to see it because I thought I was going to scare the hell out of me. Um, but really, like watching it this time, it wasn't. I don't know. Maybe it was because I was a kid when it came out, but it wasn't as scary as I thought. It's more of a tension builder and kind of a suspense builder. But yeah, really good. Like they set the tone, I think, early in the film with the interviews with like the locals. So they kind of give you a few ideas of what maybe is out there, what's happened to other people that have tried to like explore out there. And then kind of slowly watching their trip in the woods kind of fall apart as they get lost, and then they start kind of turning on each other almost and accusing each other. You can see the relationship start to really break down. And then yeah, it's very haunting, I guess you'd say. Like just having them, they're being harassed and kind of watched the whole. You kind of get this feeling that someone's watching them the whole time they're out there. You're always kind of on edge as the day, like each day that goes down, night's coming. It's like, oh, okay, here we go. What's going to happen tonight? Something's going to happen tonight. Um, yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great. I was kind of mad at kicking myself for not watching it way sooner, but yeah, I loved it. The only thing probably I didn't like was the camera movements were like a little bit like just the bouncing around. I found it a little bit like hard to focus on what was happening, but it plays into the whole theme and the style of the movie. So I was
Mhm.
happy it was good.
Mhm. I The thing that really kind of freaked me out, even now, like I think it's really kind of bizarre how when they're interviewing the people from the town in the first segment of the film, and you have the mom who is with their little kid, and then she starts talking about the witch, and the kid starts getting really upset and like putting its hand over the mom's mouth. And I just was like, I don't know, there's something so unsettling about that. Like you can tell it's a purely true moment. Like they didn't have that wasn't scripted. They didn't have that kid hit that beat. That kid is
Mm-hmm.
upset and doesn't want their mom talking about the witch. And it just really like to me that was unsettling and still kind of is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. That was a great way to start it, I think. I think if they would have just like went into the woods and started kind of going around, it probably wouldn't have the same effect because you need something in there where the interviews with the people set the tone for me. Like it kind of gave you an idea of what they might see out there, what could go wrong, what's happening, sort of. Uh, that was important, I think, where you kind of have to give the viewer a little bit of a taste of kind of what's out there a little bit, or what they might see or what they might experience.
Mm.
Yeah, it was really well done. I thought it was a good way to start it.
Do you think that a movie like this could be done today? where everything's online, everything is talked about and dissected. Do you think they could get away with doing something like this today in the style of how they marketed it to the public, making people think that it was real?
I don't know, like outside of setting something like in the 80s or something like that, it would be tough to set something today where everybody has a cell phone now. Everybody's got their service almost everywhere. You might have to approach it in a different way, though, just with how things have changed and how, like you're saying, everything's online now. Everybody's got a computer in their pockets. So um, I think it could be done, but you might have to tweak. You couldn't do it the same way. I don't think it wouldn't be as effective as it was back then. It was kind of a it was a neat time. 1999.
99, yeah, yeah. It
So
was it
yeah, when
was
cell phones were kind of just happening, and
yeah, we're on the precipice of the whole everyone being on
yeah,
the internet all the time,
internet
and
was.
yeah, yeah. So it was like it really kind of was at this gateway of like when things were changing. And
Mhm.
I don't know if like there's all these other kind of like found footage genre films that have come out where I feel like they wouldn't exist obviously without the Blair Witch Project. But even like using, like, I think there was one where it was like done in like a Zoom call or like a Zoom chat or something like that, and everybody was on it, and something happens, someone goes missing, they're trying to find it, and it's all done in this way, like we're talking to each other right now.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I feel like that the technology of now has made things potentially less scary in a way, you know?
Mhm.
Like if someone goes missing, like you said, there's cell phones covers, there's security cameras, like everybody's got, a phone in their pocket ready to record and even live stream, not just record and save it and upload it later. They can live stream something happening right away. So I feel like technology in this sense has made things less scary. And like you're saying, if there was going to be something like this to happen again, I think there might have to be a really, really clever way of setting it up wherein, maybe something has been discovered from the 80s, the 70s, the 60s, the 40s, like who knows? Like I feel like that is really an opportunity for people to get creative and see what they can do. But yeah, in a way, I also feel like I don't know if we'll ever kind of have a moment in cinema like this where people are kind of just creating a genre for the very first time.
Mhm. Yeah, it was like a perfect storm, like the time, and that kind of like their style, like the internet not being quite where it was. Like it was totally believable that people could get lost in the woods. Like that could definitely happen back then.
Yeah.
Today, that would be a little bit trickier to kind of convince an audience that they can't just find a cell phone or find something, find a way out of there. But just Google
Mhm.
Map it. Come on, get out of there.
You only have, you're dropping down to LTE. Oh, this is a disaster. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, right? Talk about a horror film. Holy smokes. Yeah.
Do you have like any favorite moments that really kind of stick out? Like I know for me, the moment where the kids come in the middle of the night was just like terrifying. Like the first time I saw it, I was like, just could imagine myself being in a tent because, I was still pretty young at the time and I loved going camping. So like just thinking about being in the woods somewhere far away and you're kind of lost, you haven't seen anybody in days, and then all of a sudden you hear kids laughing, like that ruined me.
Yeah, that's terrifying. But yeah, probably I would say like there's a definite moments, even that picture kind of behind you, that's like a iconic moment of her kind of admitting almost that she kind of screwed up, and like because she's the one pushing the pace the whole time. The other two guys are kind of uncomfortable, they're a little scared, they're a little nervous, and she's like, no, let's just keep going, just keep going and keep going. So that moment is her kind of breakdown of
Mm.
we're not okay here, and this most likely is not going to end well here. So that moment was huge because that's a switch on her for sure, like that this is we're in trouble here, like we screwed up big time.
The person that was your rock is now admitting that they don't think they're going to survive.
Yeah, total breakdown. The apologies to the moms of
Mm.
each one was like, oh, like yeah, it's almost like it's sad, it's heartbreaking at the same time. You're watching, and then throw in the combination that you think this is real. So you're watching someone's, their farewell, their last farewell, the last time that they were on camera in your head, anyways, when you're watching it, you're like, you're watching someone who's dead, spilling their guts and trying to, apologize for, all the moms that, for the kids that she kind of pushed and helped get lost in the woods. Like, it was a heartbreaker.
Mm-hmm. It's really sad, really sad. And you're right. Like, that's the moment where you're just like, oh, I don't know where this is going. She had a plan and now it's out the window. And, just, real quick, the house at the end, you're in this scenario. This is happening to you in real life. Are you going in?
Definitely not in the basement. I might peek in a window. You go in when they're going in the basement. I'm like, what? Why? When? Why would you? Even if you think your friend is in there, you're like, he's on his own. We're all in. Like, I'm on my team. They're on their team. Like, if you can't get out yourself, then this is where our relationship ends. Like, you are on your own. There's no way you're getting me in there.
We've come to a crossroads.
Just follow my voice. Follow my voice. Get out of there. But,
I'm up here. Come on.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, at least I know where I
thank
stand.
you. But that's a tough question. Say, if I'm in that house, Tim, I'm in the house and you hear my voice, you coming in? Are you coming in?
Of course I'm coming in.
Kicking the door down, guns blazing.
Bringing the cavalry. I might try to, well, if it's nowadays, I'm calling everybody so that like people there are coming in. But yeah, of course I'm coming in.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, me too. Definitely. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess you have to go in, but maybe not the basement. I would have maybe stuck out of there, but
Just
I love
wait
how
at
they did it though. I love that. I love the ending. I love that you don't see her. I love I think it's Mike standing in the corner.
Yep.
Ooh.
Yep.
Chilling, like, just gives you like, I got like, when I saw him the first time, just standing in the corner there, just like a shock down my spine, like, oh God, what is going on here? And then boom, she's down, the movie's over. I was like,
That's it.
oh.
And the really cool thing is that like I like that you hear,
wow, that's how you end a horror film right there.
just like that, and you actually hear that the 16 mil camera run out of stock. Like, it's just running, and then like you see, then you do the same with the camera. The video camera kind of runs for a moment, and then that's out.
So have you done much, say, looking into like the history of this story? Like, because what's going on here? Like, you get into this house, there's handprints of children all over the house. Like, what's going on here? He's standing in a corner in the basement, like almost like a kid that's being like punished. Like, what's happening here? Like, what is this story?
Well, they set it up a little bit in the beginning where when they're talking to people, they kind of talked about the crazy woman who lived in the woods, who like she took kids out of the town, and like she would kill them one by one, and she'd bring them downstairs in twos though. And then one would have to stand in the corner facing the corner while she killed the other one, and then she'd kill the one in the corner. So I think that's what we can assume happened to Heather. Like, Mike's in the corner waiting, being that kid, and then Heather comes down, she's killed by the witch, and then Mike's killed.
Jeez. What about Josh?
I think she got Josh in the woods, because when I think that they get that little packet filled with like teeth and blood and stuff, and he's gone.
Yeah, so what's in there? There's teeth in there. I'm trying to figure that out. Like, teeth in there. I think there was like hair.
And his
like,
hair.
I don't know, like a piece of his tongue.
It looked like there was tongue
or something. Like some piece of like. Whoa.
The way I look at it now is like that's how she took his voice, because she was out there calling and using his voice to lure them, right? So I could be way off base, but that's just how I interpret it. So I think one thing, knowing there's like 100 years of horror cinema behind us, like some of the earliest films were actually horror films. Thomas Edison, who created the very first film camera along the same time as that the Lumiere brothers were doing that, he actually one of the first things that he filmed was an adaptation of Frankenstein. So like right from the inception of cinema, we are dealing with horror films for a reason. Like they speak to us, like part of our mythology in like how we are delivered lessons is through horror stories, you know, going all the way back to Brothers Grimm if we wanted to kind of take it there. And even, you know, like a lot of, you know, our ancient religions around the world have different elements of horror in that to give us and deliver lessons. But back to like sort of like the history of film and horror, like where do you feel in your own personal rating and ranking of horror films this one might fall?
It's got to be a top five, I'd say for sure. It's got to be. It's like it's kind of defining it almost like a genre. Like this was like the start. So this kind of, not that it was the first. I don't think it was the first found footage. I think there was a couple more before it, but not as big as this one. So it's got to be top five just for kind of creating its own style and its own kind of technique almost. And then I give it points just for the marketing that was done on this thing. Like
Genius.
it's the probably the best marketing campaign for a movie possibly ever. Like I would be, I don't know how you can compare it to a lot of others. Like it's yeah, it was a freaking masterclass on marketing. So it's got to be a top five horror for sure.
Yeah, for me, definitely. I think it's in my top 10 for sure. Probably close to around the 5 mark, but like for the same thing, the effectiveness, the genius behind the marketing, as you mentioned, like the profit margin is insane, and that doesn't come into like play on like the quality of the films, but it's just mind-blowing fact to me that how creative they were with the marketing, and which actually lends to the story itself, because if the story wasn't good, the marketing wouldn't have been there to support that. So it really goes hand in hand for this one specifically. And yeah, easily in the top 10 all time. Like the scare factor when I originally first saw it was just, it was unreal. I remember driving home and you know, I was living out in the country then, like driving home country roads at night, the dark. It's like, no, forget it. Like this sat with me for days. Like I used to love going walking in the woods in the evening, and anytime I went after that, my mind would start to drift back to the Blair Witch Project. So yeah, and just like filmmaking, they did. It's such a wonderfully. It's messy. It makes you feel disoriented. The bouncing around. I remember feeling sick in the theater, but like it goes perfectly in line with what they would be feeling: lost, disoriented in the woods, you know, hungry, angry, walking in circles. Like to me, that wasn't like a lack of expertise on their end, but more a design in how to actually get this story told in a really raw and effective way where you think it's real. So yeah, in my top 10, absolutely. Yeah, well, I mean, I think like overall, one of the other biggest takeaways I have, you know, for the people out there who are listening to this, which I hope there's some filmmakers out there kind of taking a look at this, is, you know, you can find a way to be impactful with not a lot of resources that, you know, the Hollywood studios might have. And in the end, that actually is probably going to work out in your favor. So whatever it is, like find your way, like, you know, get creative, get that camera, get your friends together, write the story to fit the budget that you have, and then go out there and make it happen. Like this is like a perfect example of people who had little who ended up making a lot. So do it.
Yeah, if you can kind of tie your budget in with the style of your film, then you really got something there. If you can almost, you know, make people think you did something like that deliberately, but really you were just, it was on a low budget, you're ahead of the game for sure.
I felt bad for the actors afterwards. Like they were kept away from the premieres because they wanted people to believe that this was real. Like they were kind of like hushed to the side, and like they never really had like a career after that. I know the girl Heather was in like a few of those like romantic teeny bop movies of the early 2000s after that, but and like they were hushed away to keep the marketing under wraps, which, you know, helped the film, but you know, I feel bad for them and their careers. But
I wonder how that would have worked. Did they get like, because I'm assuming before the movie was like a big hit, where they're looking at maybe I don't know, $1,000 each for each actor for that, and then the movie goes on to gross, 250 million. I hope they got I hope they got that written into their
I hope so.
contract, man. Holy,
I hope so, man. I
I'd
hope
be so
whatever.
pissed.
I know whatever deal they signed, I hope that it worked out good for them in the end, because this was pretty monumental.
And they never really did do even like I don't think any of the actors really did much after that. Even like even the directors, I don't even think they like. I think the one guy does like episodes of shows and some little stuff, but
Yeah, they've had a few things come out, but none have like ever reached the amount of people that Blair Witch did. And I think they've been able to kind of make a career out of everything, which is great. Like in the end, I mean, sure, everybody wants to be, James Cameron with three of the four top grossing films of all time, multiple Oscars. But if you can make a career out of telling films and keep going, I think in the end that's to be noted for sure.
mm-hmm. Yeah, it was pretty. It is kind of inspiring, definitely for younger filmmakers, and the horror genre fits. I think someone who's just starting out, like for me, horror movies, like less is more, and like Blair Witch is like a perfect example of that. Like never showing the witch, like you don't need to. That would have ruined it. If I would have saw the witch, I would have been taken totally out of the film. Like it just wouldn't have had the same effect at all. So less is way more, and it went at least when horror for me. But yeah, it's a good place to start, definitely for inspiring filmmakers for sure.
Beauty, beauty. Well, I think that's going to wrap up our first ever Morgue Films podcast or film chat. So, yeah, until next time, get out there, make some movies, kids.